3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network, this is a Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show as we come to you live from our 345 Hudson Street studios, sitting on top of the 10th floor. Of course, we are broadcasting to you, to all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and streaming live, as always, on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in, 855-212-4227. And you could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. We have an action-packed show for you today. Carlos Ortiz, CK, is here with us, as is Moist Mike as well. We are rocking and rolling for the next 3 hours, all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. We are scheduled to be joined by the Hall of Fame basketball coach Larry Brown. 20 minutes from now, John Fanta will join us at the top of the hour, and Gary Washburn, who covers the Celtics, should be stopping on by at 5:20 p.m. Eastern time today, 2:20 p.m. Pacific. I need to start, though, with the NBA Finals. And I think there are two takeaways from last night if you had to tell a story and encapsulate a storyline from Game 1, where the Boston Celtics just dominated outside of a little bit of a stretch in the third quarter. They dominated the Dallas Mavericks. Why did the Celtics win the game? Kristaps Porzingis returned to the lineup. Kristaps Porzingis in Game 1 was the best player for the Boston Celtics. Now, why did the Mavs lose the game? Because Kyrie Irving, who hoodwinked us all and was trying to tell you he was a different person, had his true colors show last night. And it's not because of his poor performance, because we all know the talent that Kyrie has. But the facts are Kyrie Irving last night was 6 of 19 from the field, 0 of 5 from behind the arc, and only had a measly 12 points. So when I get to the main point on why Kyrie Irving fooled us, I'll play you some audio in just a second. But Kyrie tried to sell us a message that he's learned to consolidate his emotions. He has matured from previous instances in Boston, and the crowd and the animosity and the hatred, even though there was going to be a lot of booing, obviously, when Kyrie walked into TD Garden, was not going to exist. And Chris Brockman from the Rich Eisen Show joined us yesterday. And he said, even as a Celtics fan, he thinks the Kyrie Irving storyline is a little bit overblown. And after Game 1, it was going to go away. And you know what? Even though we sat here for over a week talking about Kyrie Irving, before the game yesterday, I started to agree with Chris because of what seemed like a mea culpa, or as the closest thing you're going to get to a mea culpa that Kyrie Irving did say a few days ago. But then after the game, he attacked the Celtics fans after a bad performance, and supposedly during the game, he was going at it with Celtics fans. And if you want to do that, because some guys need those competitive juices to be flowing to get a great performance, and you have a great performance, fine. But when you were the biggest detriment to your team last night, and you were the one with championship experience on the court playing, you can't have 12 points. And a lot of commentary on this network that I work for was Dallas going to win the series. Dallas going to win the series. Dallas is going to win the series. And I'm not saying the series is over, but I said the Celtics are going to win this series in 6 games. And the reason why I thought they were going to win this series in 6 games is because you need Kyrie and Luka together up against Boston, who is a deeper team, to give you 4 games when they both go for 30-plus points. Like what they did in the closeout game up against Minnesota, where Kyrie had 36 and Luka had 36. That's how you're going to beat Boston. And even though I believe Luka and Kyrie is a better duo than Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I don't think Kyrie and Luka are going to get 30-plus points together 4 times in a 7-game series up against this Boston Celtics team. But Kyrie Irving last night told me everything I needed to know. That all this, he's changed and he's mature and he's a different person, is a bunch of baloney. That's what it is. And if you don't believe me and you're thinking, oh, this is just bitter Zach on the radio, this is just Zach who doesn't like Kyrie, hold on. I'll admit, I don't like Kyrie anymore. I've been blown away by what he's been able to do in this postseason because we always know he's such a talented player. However, let me remind people, I haven't worn it in a long time, but this is how big of a Kyrie fan I used to be. I have an Uncle Drew shirt. Like, I used to be a big Kyrie fan. That 3-point shot up against the Golden State Warriors was awesome, was spectacular, was sensational. But since leaving Cleveland, the fact is he's acted like a jackass. And when the toothpaste gets out of the tube and you try to put the toothpaste back in the tube, It's very difficult. And it seems like in this week, when the narrative for the first time since leaving the Cavaliers has finally been positive to Kyrie, he tried to take all the toothpaste and put it back in the tube. And he ended up after game one showing that he's phony and he's a fraud. And everything he was telling us for a week was BS. Here is Kyrie. This was before game one a few days ago. He talked about his bad behavior last time he was playing in Boston and made it known that he's a different person.
Last time in Boston, I don't think that was the best, not this regular season, but when we played in the playoffs and everyone saw me flip off the birds and kind of lose my shit a little bit. That wasn't a great reflection of who I am and how I like to compete on a high level. It wasn't a great reflection on my end towards the next generation on what it means to control your emotions in that type of environment, no matter what people are yelling at you.
When I heard that audio, I was stunned. And the reason why I was stunned, and I even took the bait, is because I never heard any remorse come from Kyrie Irving. It's always someone else's fault. And there's an arrogance that comes with Kyrie Irving. And to hear him actually sound humble and issue somewhat of an apology and admit his actions were not showcasing the best version of himself, I started to think to myself, maybe this is a different version of Kyrie. But then last night, and these are two clips that are going to display you the real Kyrie Irving when it pertains to the Boston fan and how much real estate the Boston fan owns in his cabeza, just fully display that everything he said in the last week was once again BS. Here is Kyrie Irving after having a pathetic game one performance where he didn't make one three-point shot and only had 12 points and let his team down in game one. Here is him having the audacity to talk about the environment in Boston and how he actually expected the crowd to be louder.
Being in this environment, I'm used to it at this point. Early in my career, there was a different relationship that I had with Boston, just being able to come here, be settled with a veteran group. Now I'm here as the veteran. Over the past few years, just experiencing the playoffs here, even regular season, it's been the same thing. I thought it was going to be a little louder in here, but I'm expecting the same things going into game two. Crowd trying to get me out of my element, my teammates out of my element. But again, the energy's got to be focused towards the game.
Think about it. He thought this was going to be a louder environment and a louder crowd. So, Samter, let me just ask you this. Little response I want from you. If Kyrie, according to him, right, didn't get shook by the crowd and the environment was rather tamed for what he thought it was going to be, and he thought they were going to be louder, then why was he so off last night? Why was he only able to put up 12 points in the game if the crowd didn't get to him like he was claiming? And he's basically begging the crowd to be louder and boo him more.
I mean, listen, everybody has an off night, so maybe he just had an off night. That could be a possibility.
You know that's not true.
No, I know that's not true.
The reason is Kyrie is mentally soft going up against the Boston Celtics. Now, if I just played you those two audio clips, you may say, Zach, you're being a little tough on Kyrie. Zach, maybe Santa's right. It's just one stinking game. Everyone's allowed to have a bad night, right? The first time I saw Steph Curry in person, when he came to Philadelphia and I was covering the Warriors-Sixers game, and I was so excited to see Steph Curry, and that's when Steph Curry was a rock star, and he was just at the height of him being a rock star. Steph Curry didn't make a single three-point shot in the game. So everyone's allowed to have a bad night. But here is the longtime voice of the Celtics, Mike Gorman, who was on Toucher and Hardy on 98.5 The Sports Hub in Boston. Mike Gorman was sitting in the 9th row. There was a fan in front of him in the 4th row, and supposedly that fan was jawing back and forth with Kyrie, and Kyrie was giving it back to the fan, not during a timeout, not during a stoppage in play, not during a review, but while the game was going on.
He had a running dialogue going on with a guy in about the 6th row. And he's running up and down the court, and he's yelling at this guy and giving this guy kind of the finger. Yep. It's just crazy. And this guy was about 4 rows back. And he get up and he yelled at Kyrie when Kyrie came in the game maybe the second or third time. And Kyrie kind of gave him a little shit back. And then the guy kept on him. And then Kyrie started looking at this guy and started pointing at him and started mouthing a variety of things to this guy. And next thing you know, the ball's in bound and people come up down the court and Kyrie's dealing with this guy. It went on for maybe 2 or 3 possessions. And in one of the possessions, he got the ball, he made a couple moves, he couldn't do anything, he got rid of it and turned around and started going back and forth with the guy again.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy. I've never really seen that.
Kyrie Irving is an unbelievable talent. Kyrie Irving, when he is locked in, is a top 10 player in the league. But Kyrie Irving's kryptonite is himself and also the Boston Celtics. Ever since he decided to stomp on the leprechaun right at half court, he is 0-11. 0-11 up against the Boston Celtics. And Kyrie tried to tell us before the final start, he's a different guy. Right, going back to Boston, he's changed. He's been able to consolidate his emotions. He wasn't the best version of himself when he was giving the fans the middle finger. And last night, he walks into Boston when, according to himself, the crowd wasn't even as raucous as he thought it was going to be, and he failed to show up. He had 12 points, he was 6 of 9 from the field, and he was 0 of 5 from 3. And then we find out, after the game from Mike Gorman, that during the game, Kyrie and a fan, not an ex-player, not a celebrity, a fan in the 4th row was going back and forth, and Kyrie was reciprocating throughout the game. This dude is a champion, Kyrie. This dude made one of the biggest shots we've ever seen in the NBA Finals, but he doesn't have the mental toughness to beat the Boston Celtics 4 times in a 7-game series in the year of 2024 in the NBA Finals. He'll play a good game or 2 in this series, I'm sure. But what I heard before the series, after the game last night, and then today tells me everything I need to know with what Kyrie Irving isn't going to do in this series. And what he isn't going to do is be able to ignore the noise, lock in, and play great, and win a Larry O'Brien trophy and hold it right up in the faces of his former team. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Kyrie Irving showed you who he really was last night. And everything he was trying to sell us was a bunch of garbage. He hoodwinked us. There's no doubt about it. What say you on Kyrie? 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. We'll take a timeout. When we come on back, the only head coach to coach a team to an NBA championship and a college basketball championship. He is Larry Brown. Larry Brown will join us to talk about the Pistons team he won a championship with, the Sixers team he took to an NBA Finals, and also the decision that Dan Hurley has to make. Dan Hurley, is he going to leave UConn, where he's won 2 national championships, and will he go coach LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers? The Hall of Famer, Larry Brown, next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Infinity Sports Network. It is the Zach Gelb Show. Game 1 of the NBA Finals in the books last night as the Boston Celtics dominated the Dallas Mavericks, and they have a 1-0 series lead. We'll go out to the guest line right now and welcome in a man that knows a thing or two about coaching in the NBA Finals. He won a championship with the Detroit Pistons back in 2004, and he's the only coach to ever coach a team to an NCAA championship and also a NBA championship as well, and that is the Hall of Famer in Larry Brown. Coach, always great to hear your voice. Thanks so much for doing this, and how you been?
I'm good, Zach. I'm good.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. You know, I was actually talking about your 2004 Pistons team last week, because we were talking about some of our favorite teams to ever win a championship as we had that long layoff until the finals finally got underway. When you look back all these years later about coaching that group in Detroit that won it all, what comes back to mind and what made that group so special?
Well, one, I was lucky to follow Rick Carlisle and then work for Joe Dumars and have an owner like, Bill Davidson. But, I took over 9 teams in the NBA. Only one had a winning record, and that was Detroit. And, the team had good values because they played for a good coach prior to us getting there. And, what I remember most is we split in L.A. That was the format 2-3-2, which is really not the best format, I think. We win game 1, and then we're up 3 in game 2 with limited seconds on the clock, and, Phil calls a timeout, and I tell the team I think we should foul. And they all look at me like I'm crazy, because we never hack-a-shack, Shaquille. We never fouled, to keep people from shooting a 3 to tie a game. But, we kind of knew Kobe's going to take the final shot, and he usually makes it. And they all looked at me and shook their head. No, we don't foul, Coach. And then I said, all right, what if they throw it to Shaq? And then they all looked around and said, all right, if they throw it to Shaq, we'll foul. And then they huddle up after that, and I knew they were saying, we ain't fouling. And then they threw it to Shaq, and Shaq hit Kobe. Kobe hit a 3, and we lose. So instead of going up 2-0, we're 1-1. And flying back, we got to fly charter, and the players were up front, and the coaches were back. And I went up, and I apologized to the team. I said, we should have fouled. It was my fault. And they all looked at me and told me to get back to my seat because we're not coming back to L.A.
It's a wonderful story. The Hall of Famer Larry Brown here with us. Rasheed Wallace, I actually heard Andre Iguodala do an interview. It was 2-3 years ago with Dan Lebertard and Stu Gatz. And Andre Iguodala said if Rasheed Wallace played in today's NBA, he'd be a top 5 player. Is that something you agree with? Do you think Rasheed's game would have done even better in this era of the NBA?
I thought he was a top 5 player when I had him. But, the game's changed so much. I don't know. I don't even really understand it, to be honest. When half the shots you take are 3-pointers, I kind of don't understand. But Rasheed, he's a lot like Anthony Davis. He can go outside. He could make a 3. He could get in the post and hurt anybody that's trying to guard him on the block. He's athletic enough to switch because the NBA, if you watch the game, all they do is try to get a ball screen or a pin down to create a mismatch and then drive and kick or, hopefully get it all the way to the rim. But you need big guys that are mobile enough to switch and keep people in front, and they value a big person that can shoot outside as well as, post up if the opportunity presents itself. And Rasheed could do all those things. He's a great defender, a good rebounder, great passer, and maybe one of the most misunderstood players. Every teammate or every coach that ever coached him loved him like I did.
Do you feel that same way? Obviously a different player, but with Allen Iverson, that he was a little bit misunderstood as well?
I don't know if he was misunderstood. When I was coaching him, he's probably the most popular player in the NBA. I don't care, you can talk about Michael or all of them. everybody could identify with Allen, because he was smaller and people beat him up, but he never complained and got up. I think he led the league in scoring 3 or 4 times when I was with him. Everywhere we played, there were so many people cheering for him. The misunderstood part is, this whole practice thing. And if you ask most of the players that played for me, they would probably tell you they thought I was the devil because we did practice a lot. Allen wanted to play 48 minutes every game. And practice wasn't one of his things, but, when it came game time, he was so competitive and wanted to win so badly. So I don't know. I think he was, if you ask most kids, they'd tell you he was their favorite player. And when I, left the pros and went back to college, every AAU event I went to, every small kid wore number 3, had cornrows, and had a sleeve on his arm. And I think that was just because of Allen.
I actually know one of those intramural teams that you would sometimes see. Matt Sherman. I don't know if he had cornrows and a number 3, but I remember when you weren't coaching, you were actually coaching an intramural team for my buddies, Matt Sherman and then A.J. Marshall.
Yeah.
That was really something, Coach, that, NBA, college, and there you are coaching in a youth league when you were out of a job.
Well, I always wanted to be a high school coach and teach American history and really coach all sports. I don't know if people remember the Chip Hilton series, but Claire V wrote this series about a great athlete who lost his dad, and he played all 3 sports, and his coach coached all 3 sports. And I thought that would kind of be a pretty good career path for me. But, I was lucky. I played for some amazing coaches and had some amazing coaches sit next to me. And, my career kind of took a different path. But I think that the most fun I ever had in coaching, to be honest, was when I was Coach Smith's assistant, when they only had 2 assistants, and I got to coach the freshman team. I learned how to coach. And I think that was a time in my life that I really, looked back on it and thought it was unbelievable. Now, if you're a college coach, you coach in pros.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how they're going to sustain that. I don't know how, these non-revenue sports are going to make it. And I don't know how you can follow a team because the personnel is going to change every year. It's going to be kind of crazy.
With that being said, as the Hall of Famer Larry Brown is here with us, Dan Hurley has a decision to make. Do you leave UConn where you just won 2 national championships and go take the Laker job, or do you say, how would you react if Danny Hurley elected to go take the Lakers job?
I don't think he would take it if we didn't have NIL and, the portal. I don't think he'd even consider it, to be honest. But it's so different now. I think when you see Coach Saban retire and you hear Tom Izzo's remarks, I think it's not out of the question that he would consider it. I think it would be a huge plus for the Lakers and a huge loss for college basketball because, that whole family's pretty special. The dad doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah,
he might have been one of the greatest coaches ever and an unbelievable human being. But, I I think we'd lose a lot losing Danny, you know, to the NBA. But I couldn't blame him for leaving, you know, because I spent 3 months at the University of Washington early in the summer, and they had a big portal turnover, and they had a huge NIL deal going with different players, and I didn't think it was fair. I don't, I'm not against kids making money. I would hope every kid that goes to college could go like my children, if they needed a free meal, if they needed, clothes, they never had a problem worrying about where the next penny was coming from. But I wish if we were going to pay them, you put the money in escrow and, let them use the money when they're finished, because they're all not going to make the NBA and earn a living playing. And the amount of money you make, with these NIL deals, if you spread it over the course of your life, it's not a lot of money. But each kid should be able to go to college and, be like a normal student. When I went, we got $15 a month laundry money and weren't allowed to work. And when we got that $15 check, it was like hitting a home run. So now, some of these colleges, it's
$15 couldn't even get you 2 slices of pizza now, Coach. Let's be real.
Yeah. But your college education, when I was at SMU, it was $80,000 to go to SMU. You could get a Pell Grant. You could get a cost of living allowance. You could get a clothing allowance. You could work while you're going to school. The value of the education was unbelievable. You had health care. You had every opportunity going. And then getting a degree was huge. Now, if you transfer a lot of these schools, you need 60 hours to get a degree from school. You can't just transfer like to Wake Forest in your senior year and expect to get a degree. You're going to need 60 hours from Wake Forest, and I think that troubles me a little bit.
Wrap it up with the Hall of Famer Larry Brown, who's kind enough to join us on the Zach Gelb Show. The question becomes, since Danny is a demanding coach and he has a bit of a quirky personality, how would that work coaching professionals? Do you think there would be a big adjustment for him if he did take the Lakers job?
Yeah, I mean, it's an adjustment for everybody, going from college to pro. But the college game's becoming more and more like the pro game, the style of play. But he's a great coach. I think players, I don't want to talk too much, but, every time I took a new job, I tell my staff the first couple of days are really important because, we got to show the players we can coach, and they'll know after 2 practices whether we coach or not. And they said, oh, yeah, that's the most important thing. I said, no. The second thing is, we got to show them that, they can win with us. And they said, oh, yeah, that's really important. And then the third thing, I told them, if we do a good job with them, they'll know they can make more money. And they all said, oh, definitely, that's the most important. And I said, no, the most important thing is if we can show them that we care about them. And that'll trump everything. And I think Dan would have no problem showing them that.
What was your takeaway, by the way, last night, NBA Finals, as the Celtics gave it pretty good to the Dallas Mavericks to go up 1-0?
I play golf a lot, and all the caddies always ask me who I think is going to win. And I told everybody I thought Boston was great, but if they didn't have Porzingis, I thought that might be the difference. I thought Jason had Dallas playing great, but I thought Porzingis was kind of an X factor because I didn't know if Boston's depth was as good as maybe Dallas. But watching last night, that blew me away.
He was sensational.
Yeah, I was shocked how that game turned out, but I think both coaches have done amazing jobs with those teams, and I think it's going to be a fun series. But if Porzingis plays that way, the depth of Boston is not an issue because Horford either becomes a starter or a bench player, and that adds to their depth. So that might be a factor, but hopefully it'll be a great series.
Last thing I'll ask you, Larry Brown. As you know, I lived in Philly for 7 years, and I know the weight your name still carries there. Embiid, we know what he is. He's a phenomenal player. Tyrese Maxey had a sensational season. The Sixers still trying to find that other guy to complete that team. Some people have talked about LeBron. I don't think LeBron is going there. How about your view on the future of the 76ers?
Well, I was there for Allen's unveiling of the statue, which is too small.
Yeah. Right? They needed to make that statue just a little bit bigger.
Yeah, they ought to make it about 5'11", 160 pounds. But they got a great coach. They have good ownership. I think Harris is better than people think. They added some experience with Batum and Buddy Hield. I think they're a great team if Joel can stay in shape and keep from, being hurt. But, I love the future of the Sixers. When you have a guard that's growing like Maxey and then you have a center like Joel, you can fit in and find the right pieces. But they certainly have an unbelievable coach, and I hope they continue to do well. But think about it. Look at all the injuries the Knicks had.
Yeah.
I mean, Bogdanovich, Robinson, Randall. I mean,
OG.
It was unbelievable, and I'm not so sure if they were completely healthy that they might had a chance to win the championship. But teams are getting better. But I'm just hopeful that, we don't see so many people moving around so we can learn to cheer for people.
He's the Hall of Famer, Larry Brown. Coach, always great to hear your voice. Thanks so much for doing this. Good health, all right?
Thanks, Zach.
There you go. The great Larry Brown joining us on the Zach Gelb Show. Always love when we get a chance to connect with him. There was 2 times when he was coaching SMU that he would actually, when they would go play Temple, he'd let me come to his practices. And then in the middle of practice, when I guess he would let his players go get a break and chill for 10 minutes, he'd come over, do interviews with me. And then if it was going a little bit long, he'd be like, hey, I got to get back to practice. And he'd let me watch the entire thing. So always enjoy when we get a few minutes to catch up with him. All righty, let's take a timeout. We'll come on back with the news brief update time first. Here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, the agent for B.J. Thompson said the Chiefs' defensive lineman is awake and alert after suffering a seizure and cardiac arrest yesterday, and more encouraging news as his prognosis appears to be good. The Dodgers have quietly had a solid start to their season after all the big signings in the offseason. They come to New York tonight for a 3-game series with the Yankees, who have the best record in baseball. The Dodgers have that star-studded lineup, but had a hole at shortstop to fill. Enter Mookie Betts, who has handled the demanding position well, but said it hasn't been the easiest transition.
There's no excuses, but a fact is this is all new to me, man. This is all new, and it's going to take more than 2 months to get. And especially, I was talking to Lux during the game, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Betts had 2 errors last night, but the Dodgers beat the Pirates 11-7. Yankees have won 8 in a row, the current longest winning streak in the majors. They also got good news so far on Juan Soto's forearm. Reportedly, an MRI revealed only inflammation. The Reds go for their 6th in a row tonight when they open a series against the Cubs, who are a game in front of them in the standings. Carlos Alcaraz will play in the French Open final, getting past Jannik Sinner in 5 sets. I'm Rich Ackerman.
855-212-4227. That's the number to get in touch with us, the Infinity Sports Network. Give us a call, 855-212-4227.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
All righty, it's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets asked us a question. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Let me start you off with Adam Silver, Spineless Silver, the commissioner of the NBA. He is still considering expansion, adding more teams to the association.
It's not preordained that we will expand this time, but I know there's an enormous amount of interest out there. But I think it's on the league to look holistically, because there's the dilution, of course. Let's just say we expand by 2 teams. What does that mean for talent? I feel great about where the talent is right now in the league, but those players have to come from somewhere. If you add 2 teams, at some point, we'd like to look outside the United States in addition to Canada.
This commissioner, I'm so sick and tired of everyone praising him. And I think as the days go on, more and more people start to kind of think like me that this guy is so overrated. The regular season's so watered down as it is with the teams that you have. So now we're going to add more teams. And what, you're going to add more teams to this stupid play-in tournament that's only worked because the Stars have dogged it? And that's the only reason why they've been in these play-in tournament games? Ugh, just too many teams. Right now, it's fine the way that it is. There's enough problems with the way that it is. We do not need more teams. Let's go to Anthony Richardson while he was throwing lefty the other day.
I'm good. Just a little soreness. I've been dealing with soreness since I started throwing. It's just my shoulder, but it's hard to listen to the trainers sometimes. They're like, nah, you got to sit out for a day. I don't want to sit out, but it's part of the health journey, so I'm just rocking with them and just listening.
Is that something they told you to expect after everything?
Oh, yeah. We're actually surprised it's only been one day like this. Everything's been smooth sailing so far. And luckily it was the last day, so we're not too worried about it. And we're just trying to keep it going.
You sort of pushed this process, haven't you?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they've tried to hold you back, but you've pushed it. So this is not, again, surprising to you?
Yeah, no, nothing to worry about.
That's so weird. Like, I appreciate him wanting to play through the shoulder soreness from the injury that he suffered. But this is the off season, right? This doesn't matter. This isn't a regular season game. You're in OTAs. Like, we're getting ready for training camp. Just sit out. If you have some soreness, take a day off. We don't need you out of there on the practice field throwing the ball lefty. That doesn't make sense to me. Here is John Harbaugh. Will he get a tattoo like Jim if he wins another Super Bowl?
I mean, I'm not afraid of getting a tattoo. I want to make it clear. And if we win a Super Bowl, I probably could be talked into something, but it's probably going to have an I and an A. I can tell you, any tattoo I have is going to start with Ingrid and Allison. Family first, man. I'm pretty sure Jim probably got that dictate too. If I look at that tattoo closely, I bet there's something in there that says Sarah on it.
The Harbaughs are so weird. They really are. I love them, but they are a weird group. They are a quirky group, I think is the right way to say it. All righty, I heard this yesterday. This is Lauren Withrow, Golf Channel reporter. I was hoping her name wasn't going to emerge. I knew it would, but I saw this and I actually felt bad for her. Like, I know it's easy to be like every Tom, Dick, and Harry today and pile on and poke fun at this. But clearly, a producer or someone said, you're going to go interview Vince Young. And I guess she thought she was talking to Vince Young, except it was Everett Sands, who's at Citadel. Listen up to this encounter on the Golf Channel.
Vince Young playing this week, and he's down with Bourne.
6 seasons in the NFL, arguably one of the best NCAA quarterbacks of all time at Texas. Picked up golf about 4 years ago. What's the biggest shift you make going from the ultimate team sport to now the ultimate individual sport?
Now, I apologize. You have the wrong person. I'm Everett Sands over at Citadel, which I'm a football coach. But the thing is, the great thing about golf is I'm not only competing against myself, but I'm competing against everybody else.
Good luck this weekend.
Hey, I appreciate it.
That's tough to listen to. That's really tough to listen to. You know, I forget who the NASCAR guy is. The guy, he's legendary in NASCAR F1 racing, where he's always on the ground for one of those events, and he was interviewing someone that he thought he was interviewing, and it wasn't. But clearly someone just said, hey, go interview Vince Young. This is where Vince Young is. She went there. She didn't know what Vince Young looked like and thought it was Vince Young. But how can you have the camera there following, ready to, like, in checks and balances, how does no one say, hey, this isn't Vince Young? It's not as if it's some irrelevant person. Vince Young is still pretty recognizable even to this day. Here is Everett Sands of Citadel. He was on WCIV, Charleston, South Carolina, on the mistaken identity in the interview.
I didn't think necessarily about the recruiting aspect, but I wanted to make sure she knew I was a Citadel guy and I was a football coach. So I could talk football, so I could answer the question, intelligently because I have that football background. And actually, as I watched the video, I was sort of waiting for her to change gears, but she didn't. but it was all good.
That's funny. And final question, what did Vince Young say? Did he get a laugh out of it?
Well, so this what happened. When Vince came up, I said, hey, Vince, how you doing? My name is Vince Young. And he just sort of smiled. I said, well, let me tell you the story behind it. So he did get a little good chuckle out of it.
Man, that's brutal. Like, Everett Sands had to know something was up when they're like, oh, we're going to go interview a guy from Citadel. Like, seriously. The worst broadcasting moment I've ever had in terms of, like, with the guest and something like that, Dan Leibovitz, who's now, like, the associate commissioner of the Big East. When he was with the American, I was interviewing him, and I forgot his name. And I'm about to go to him on a radio show. It's not like TV, you can put a lower third up. And I just blanked on his name. And I talked to him like a bunch before that. Sam, you guys once had a thing on Tiki and Tierney, right? Where it was Ryan Hollins you had on, but you thought it was Ryan Leaf?
Yeah, in the email, both numbers were there, but in separate parts of the conversation, and we just used the wrong number.
Hey, Ryan Leaf, what's happening? It's actually Ryan Hollins.
And he ended up doing a great interview. He was fantastic.
That's amazing. Well, come on back. John Fanta will join us. Is Dan Hurley going to be the next coach of the Lakers? I think so.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, rocking and rolling. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. We are all waiting to see what Danny Hurley is going to do. Will he stay with the UConn Huskies and go for a three-peat, or will he be off to the NBA? We are waiting. Now we get to talk to one of the best voices covering college basketball today. That, of course, is John Fanta of Fox Sports, who's been all over this Danny Hurley story. And John joins us right now from an Uber. So my first question, John, first off, I hope you're doing well, but is that Uber in Connecticut or is it in L.A.? I'm just wondering, because I'm sure you're all over this story.
It's in New Jersey, Zach. So that's Dan Hurley's home state.
That's true.
So I am in the swamps of Jersey, as Bruce Springsteen would like to say, on a Friday afternoon in stop and go traffic. Of course, New Jersey folks know summer Fridays around here. You're going to be in some stop and go. And how fitting. We're kind of in stop and go traffic right now with Dan Hurley, the Lakers, the UConn saga. Zach, I would say this, and I think you'd agree with me. In terms of the random twists on the coaching carousel and where it comes this time of year, this is an all-timer. It really, really is.
I would say the last time I was really stunned in the college basketball coaching carousel, Ed Cooley, we started to hear a little bit about that, but when Jay Wright elected to retire, because that felt like it came out of nowhere.
It's like we're on the same wavelength, Zach. I was just going to say, for me, the last 3 years, being in the Northeast, covering a lot of the Big East, I was thinking about this. For whatever reason, people say that the Big East is as dramatic as any league in college basketball. It's got the most drama in it since the 80s or 90s. The last 3 off-season cycles, Jay Wright retires. Ed Cooley is the first Big East coach in the history of the league to go from one school to another in the league, going from Providence to Georgetown. Meanwhile, St. John's hires Rick Pitino. He returns to the Big East. And now Dan Hurley's won back-to-back national titles, and he might be going to one of the most storied franchises in all of sports. This league, that phrase, this league, it applies to the Big East. Might not have the football dollars, but man, does it know how to generate some hoop storylines.
Talking to John Fanta. So when this story came out yesterday, like I slept in a little bit late and then my phone's blowing up and I'm like, oh my goodness gracious. There's a chance Dan Hurley's going to the Lakers. Tell me through what your first initial reaction was. The source, obviously, it being Woj, makes sense with how close he is to the Hurley family, but how did you process this? And I think we lost John Fanta. The Uber driver was probably like, hey, I don't want to hear any more of those basketball takes from you, Fanta. Shut up. I will tell you, the more and more we do these Zoom interviews, because usually when a guy's on the phone, you have no clue where they are. How many times people call from a car is kind of crazy. I was actually disappointed, though. John Fanta was calling from a car because he usually does these interviews sitting behind like a basketball hoop, as if one that you would just hang in your room and you have the Nerf basketball. And I saw that Big Cat and PFT had him once dunk the basketball. So I was kind of hoping that we were going to get John Fanta with that basketball hoop in the background and maybe have him take a shot. And if the shot went in, then that means Dan Hurley's taking the Lakers job. And if he missed the shot, then he was going to be joining or staying with the UConn Huskies. So hopefully we could reconnect with John Fanta momentarily here on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. But to spend a few minutes, because we haven't really talked about outside of when we had Larry Brown on for a few minutes. And Larry Brown said he understands why Dan Hurley would take this because college basketball is so different now because of NIL and the transfer portal and the constant grind that does occur in college basketball now compared to what it was years ago. And I do think it's an easier lifestyle to be coaching in the pros compared to college basketball. With that being said, Seth Greenberg, when he joined us yesterday, he did disagree with me on that. But when I left the show yesterday, we went around the room, and Botcher said he thinks he's going to stay at UConn. Santer said he thinks he's going to stay at UConn. And then also Axe said he thought he was going to stay at UConn. And for whatever the reasons were, I'm sitting there and I'm hearing, no, he's not going to leave. I'm like, okay, I got to be the guy that says yes. But when I really left the show yesterday, I put out an instant reaction video walking home. And I was pondering on my 35-minute walk home a little bit more when it comes to what was going to happen. And I just kind of got to the line of thinking, and John did some reporting on this with the lucrative offer that they did make to Dan Hurley and the fact that it's a offer that would make him one of the highest paid coaches in college basketball. And I know we don't have the concrete detail numbers, but people will speculate on what those numbers were. But the fact that that offer has been out there and he hasn't taken it, and now considering where the source is that it's Woj with this story, I'm at the point where I would be surprised if he doesn't end up taking the Lakers job, because this story didn't get out for a reason. And now that it's out there, and maybe he gets cold feet. Maybe in this meeting today he doesn't like what he's hearing from Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss. Like, all that stuff is possible. It's on the table. I'm not telling you it's a lock. But I don't think this story gets out if it isn't a legit possibility and Hurley isn't leaning right now towards taking the job. And you win back-to-back national championships. The Kentucky stuff, we knew he was never taking the Kentucky job. The only way he was leaving UConn was to go to the pros. And we know that UConn right now is a blue blood. Kentucky, obviously a blue blood too. But you win back-to-back national championships. You also don't take the Kentucky job, and still there's no new contract. And I just put that question out there on Twitter yesterday. Why isn't there a new contract? Like, why isn't it agreed upon? Why isn't it signed, sealed, and delivered? Could that be on UConn? Could that be on Dan Hurley? Could it be a mixture of both? Like what John reported on Fox, and I read the article, that is a deal that is going to make him one of the highest paid coaches in college basketball. Does he have a problem with administration? Like, I don't know. I'm guessing. I'm speculating. But the fact that no new contract had a signature on it, it remains this possibility to be there. And, like, let's remember, this isn't the Memphis Grizzlies. This isn't, I know they're in a great spot right now, but the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is the brand of the Los Angeles Lakers. That's what this is. And remember, Danny Hurley is the son of a coach, Bob Hurley Sr. We all know who Danny Hurley's brother is, right? And the three of them are all basketball royalty, with Bob Hurley Sr. being a legendary high school coach. We know what Bobby was as a player, and then what Dan has become as a college coach, being the face of the sport right now. So I don't think he just leaves for any job. And he's talked about this openly, about one day wanting to coach in the NBA. And I think if we could get Fanta back up soon, hopefully we can. I know there's a little connection issue. I think John would even say that probably Danny Hurley was thinking about this a few years from now. But however this went down, and I speculated to this yesterday, and I stand by it, I think the Lakers and Woj had some conversation. And whatever happened from that conversation made Woj call Danny Hurley, whether that's, hey, Danny, the Lakers are interested in you, or, hey, I'm here and someone leaked it out to me that you've been talking to the Lakers. And because of how close the Hurley family is to Woj, they're not going to lie to Woj. So I think Woj was a big piece in this. And now this means in the next few days, I think we get an answer. I don't think we're sitting here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week not knowing. And right now, you put a gun to my head and say, Zach, is Dan Hurley taking the job? I think yes. He's done everything he can at UConn. And I know people tell me, oh, he'll be able to three-peat. He's done everything he can at UConn. He is, right now, the face of the sport. He's back-to-back national champions. He has continued on them being a blue blood, the Huskies, and it's the NBA. And trust me, like, I'll question if his style can fit in the NBA. We know he's a heck of a coach, but the demanding personality, him being a quirky dude, will that relate in a locker room? And sometimes a college coach comes in there, doesn't adapt, and that's the biggest detriment. And then there's the family aspect of this too. You're an East Coast guy. You want to go out to the West Coast? Now, Lakers go make you a 6 or 7 year offer, and they pay you $14, $13 million a year. I think it makes that a little bit easier. So yesterday, like during the show yesterday, I kind of felt 50-50 on it. I started to think to myself, is he using the Lakers? Because everyone knew he was never taking the Kentucky job. But is he using the Lakers, which is in the NBA, right, the professional league, to drive up the price from UConn? But then Fanta comes out with this report that they made him an offer. And this offer wasn't just made this week. It was made a while ago. And this offer makes him one of the highest paid coaches in college basketball. Now, there are other reasons maybe why he did not put pen to paper. Yeah, I guess that's plausible. But the fact that that offer is out there and it's not been signed yet, the biggest question is why. And I think we've now found out the why part. Doesn't mean he definitely takes the job. But I don't think it gets to this way publicly, and this story gets out this way, if he wasn't seriously considering taking it. And my gut tells me right now that he's going to take it. That's what my gut tells me. And if you would have called me a month ago, and if you would have said, right, because Darvin Ham's been dismissed for a while, hey, Zach, Danny Hurley's going to be the next coach of the Lakers, I'd be like, yeah, right. He's not going to be the next coach of the Lakers. And even when the story first got out there, I'm like, okay, you could target Danny Hurley. Like, I could go target, wanted to go on a date with Beyonce. Or, some other beautiful woman out there. You could have that, your eyes set on some beautiful women, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. And that's how I first thought that was going to play on out. But the more and more you hear things and the more and more you read things, this decision's coming soon. And I expect Danny Hurley to be the next coach of the Lakers, which is just wild, bizarre, and it's absolutely crazy. And I put this out right away yesterday. Like, it must have been, I woke up, saw the story, reacted to it. And then after that, it must have been at like 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Let's see. I have the tweet right here. 9:37 a.m. Eastern time. 5 names I thought for UConn if Hurley goes to the Lakers. Kamani Young, Scott Drew, Rick Pitino, Kim English, and Bruce Pearl. If we want to talk about these names realistically, it would be a tough blow for Providence because you just got someone to replace Ed Cooley, and Kim English, I think, is going to be a rock star. I don't think it would be Pitino, but you at least got to consider it. Scott Drew didn't leave Kentucky. He loves Baylor, but we know UConn's a great job, and there's less pressure than it would be at Kentucky, so you got to make that phone call. And Bruce Pearl has the energy and the big-time feel to take over for Dan Hurley, who, Dan Hurley's a better coach, but Bruce Pearl's been very accomplished as well. But taking from another program this time of the year, it could happen, but it's difficult. It really is. Like, UConn's practicing. They practiced the other day. UConn practices again next week. And remember now, with transfer portal, name, image, and likeness, and the coach leaves, this opens all back up for UConn. You want to find a way to keep those guys right away. And when Alabama found out Nick Saban was retiring, their AD said, guys, just give us 48, 72 hours. They ended up making a good hire in Kalen DeBoer, taking him from Washington. But that's when the hiring cycle was going on. When Jim Harbaugh elected to leave Michigan, we all knew Sharon Moore was going to be the coach. And that's what I think UConn will try to do. They'll try to emulate what Michigan did, where you take one of your own on the staff and make them the coach, and that keeps this core together and prevents them from going somewhere else immediately. And then the season goes from being a three-peat to then right down the drain. And that's why I think it's going to be Kamani Young. I think he's of interest. All those other names, I think he's of interest of UConn. Hey, you offer Kamani Young the job, he's definitely going to take it. That's for sure. He's on the staff. He knows those guys. And that would be my prediction right now. Hurley to the Lakers, Kamani Young, the next head coach of the UConn Huskies. I don't know if it's going to work long-term at UConn, but he's going to get the first crack at it to try and replace Dan Hurley if, in fact, we get this announcement at some point over the weekend that Danny Hurley is the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. By the way, bad job by ESPN last night. I was texting with Andrew Marchand, the media critic, who is very good, and I would say he's the most popular guy covering media, like in that niche kind of role. And I asked him, I said, do you think ESPN will I didn't say have the stones. Let me get the right wording. I said, what did I text Andrew Marchand? I know once the ball is thrown up in the air, the focus on the game, but I really hope Mike Breen brings up Hurley on the broadcast with JJ sitting right next to him. Marchand said, I say they skip it. I said, I agree, I do. But I do it, but I'm also not the number one guy at ESPN. And it got me thinking. So maybe you think it's out of place in the game broadcast because when the NBA Finals tip off, the focus should be on the NBA Finals. But with how long all those shows were yesterday, pregame, and the halftime show was a disgrace, you may as well not even have it. But with all those pregame shows, how doesn't someone say, hey, JJ, we pay you, so you're going to get on one of these pregame shows, and we're going to ask you your insight on the Lakers gig? Because this job was supposed to be JJ Redick's earlier in the week, according to Shams Charania in this great media reporter feud, where they were once best of friends, and Woj mentored Shams Charania, and now it's Shams versus Woj. And Shams said the Lakers are targeting JJ Redick, and we all thought it was JJ Redick. And then, boom, the Woj bomb yesterday. Explosion, fireworks, Woj bomb, boom. And it ends up now that the Lakers are targeting Danny Hurley. But how doesn't someone get a microphone in front of JJ Redick's face yesterday and ask JJ Redick his thoughts on that and what this means for him? I would have loved to have heard that insight. What's the point of employing JJ Redick, right? Paying JJ Redick if you are ESPN and not having someone, even if it wasn't Breen, but Malika Andrews, Stephen A. Smith, Mike Wilbon, whoever. What's the point of paying JJ if you're not going to ask him that question? I thought it was a bad look yesterday for ESPN. All righty, we'll take a break. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. After game one, where's your confidence level with the Boston Celtics? Do you think this series is over, or will the Mavs find a way to come on back down 0-1 and win 4 games in this series?
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
All righty, we're back. It is the Infinity Sports Network, and it is the Zach Gelb Show. We are going to reconnect with John Fanta of Fox Sports, who's been all over this Danny Hurley situation, as we are in waiting mode to see if Danny Hurley's going to take the Lakers gig. When Fanta was on with us last, out of nowhere, he just dropped right off the screen. So I have 3 guesses. The Uber driver punched him and was like, I don't want to hear any more of these stupid basketball takes. Danny Hurley called him to say he was taking the Lakers job, or his phone died. What was it, Fanta?
It was number 3, Zach. My phone died.
You know what's funny? The minute we went to break, I said to my producer, Mike, I go, I bet you his phone died, because I don't think you sleep. Especially when you have news like this, and I know how you are and how much you love the game and you love the coverage of the sport. I just don't think it's physically possible for you to get much sleep right now as you're waiting to see if this news does break.
Well, not to mention, and your viewers can appreciate this, that as you look behind me, there's a bucket there behind me near the window.
Are you in a new house?
So my wife and I planned this window to move into a new house because we thought that this would be a good window to do this. And of course, this story has caused a whole lot of chaos in the Fanta household for a variety of reasons. So, balancing a move in beautiful New Jersey and covering Dan Hurley and the Lakers. So, yes, now we can resume. My phone is back up and running, and I am coming to you from a paint renovation job.
I'm actually a little bit disappointed that you're moving, because I always loved when you would do these interviews and you had the little basketball hoop behind you. Is the basketball hoop still around? That's my question.
It's going to make the trip. It'll be in the moving truck. Right now, it's packed away.
All right, that's very important. John Fanta here with us. So here's where I'm at with the Hurley situation. And I read your reporting, and you've made it clear that UConn made Dan Hurley an offer a little bit ago that would make him one of the highest paid coaches in college basketball. If there's not a problem with administration or something else, and it's say the money's there and he just hasn't signed it yet, that makes me think that he's off to LA and he's going to take the Lakers job. How about yourself?
I do think that if I was a betting man, and I'm not, but if I was voting on this, I would say that Dan Hurley is going to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Look at it this way. He has maxed out at the college level, right? He's done all that he can, short of John Wooden, which, Zach, I think UConn's preseason standing heading into next year, to be real with you, is based more on the past couple of seasons and giving them the benefit of the doubt than what they actually have. I don't think they're a national championship team next year. I think they're a great team. I just wouldn't put them. If I were to name 4 teams in the title tier, I'd probably look foolish, but I just think he looks at that writing. I think that he looks at Dan is wired differently. Mm-hmm. He is a different type of guy. You talk to anybody, and they'll tell you that in a good way. But he wants the next challenge. I talk to people within, UConn's athletics community that are closely aligned with men's basketball that told me he's always thinking about the next thing. Well, for him, Zach, yeah, you want to run it back. I get it. But when the next thing could be the head coach of the LA Lakers writing a chapter in LeBron James, someday LeBron's Last Dance documentary is going to come out. Dan Hurley, you can't tell me he doesn't think about the allure of potentially being a part of that. And we could all say, we don't know if it fits. We don't know if it works. You think Dan Hurley's saying that to himself? No, he bets on himself. He's betting on himself that this is the right move. Can you say no and stomach saying no to 9 figures? I have it on good authority the Lakers are offering at least $100 million guaranteed to Dan Hurley. I mean, you're talking about at least $100 million. You're talking about LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Set them aside. Let's just say there's a world where they don't play. In fact, I think LeBron and AD not being on this upcoming year's Lakers team helps the Lakers long-term in terms of winning a championship. But that's neither here nor there. Whether LeBron or AD are part of the equation or not, Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka are going to constantly go for it. As my wife comes through as we do this paint job. We're live, honey. That's okay. That's all right. This is a situation where they're always going to be contending. They're always going to be contending at the top of the NBA in terms of their philosophy. All of these pros, because Zach, there's guarantees that other NBA teams might call Dan Hurley, but the Orlando Magic and the Indiana Pacers and the Cleveland Cavaliers don't have the same allure factor that the LA Lakers have. The same money, the same everything. If the worst thing happens and this doesn't work out, Zach Gelb, Hurley goes back to college and gets whatever job he wants.
Yeah. So here's the thing. If he doesn't take the job, because you have it on good authority, this is a $100 million offer. I already thought before I heard that. I thought maybe it was going to be a 6-year deal, $80 million. That's what I was kind of thinking. But
yeah, and maybe it's something like that with some incentives added to it. But it's in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's look at it that way. Yep.
But I thought he would take that and go to Lakers. If he doesn't take it, why wouldn't he be the next Lakers coach? Why would he say no to this?
Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka are in that meeting room right now. He and Andrea, his wife, are asking some questions. He's asking questions about how much control he would have. He's finding out if Bronny James is literally part of this deal, which I think is possible. I think that LeBron James is attracted to Dan Hurley and Luke Murray, Hurley's right-hand man, their ability to develop kids. Bronny James is a kid. I want to be as clear as possible. I hope it works out incredibly well. But the coverage around Bronny James, Zach, in my humble opinion, has been disgusting.
I agree.
It's disgusting. You have people that are inventing narratives and that are flat out lying and are setting very, very, very unfair expectations for an 18-year-old kid that are not right and not fair because he's LeBron James' son. Bronny James should be in college. He should be in an Atlantic 10 program, or maybe a Big East program. He should be playing at that around that level as a role guy on a team, getting better and better, and maybe getting a shot down the road.
He should have came back and transferred to Duquesne. That's what I thought with Drew Joyce III with that connection.
100%. This notion that he's going to appear in NBA games is not true. But the notion that he could be in the G League program with the South Bay Lakers, who practice in the same facility as the LA Lakers, UCLA Training and Health Center, that to me means LeBron wants someone to take care of his son. Is Danny okay with that? Is he okay with the package deal? This comes down to Danny's list of demands getting mostly met. I think he could sacrifice a couple of things, then pushing back on. But I think the narrative is LeBron has total control of the Lakers. And the narrative's fair because that's what's happened in the past with organizations. But are you willing, if you're Dan Hurley, are you willing to sacrifice, let's just say, 2 years of LeBron James if he has control of the organization per se? But you're told by the Lakers brass, you know what, you're still going to be the long-term option here. This is what you're going to be making, and you will have control. If he has some level of control, I think he takes it. If they come back and say to him, you're going to have no control, Dan, you're the head coach, we're paying you this, we'll tell you what to do, there's a world where I think you don't mess with Happy, a guy who's gone through some mental health battles. Like Dan's been very outspoken about that, where he says, you know what, I'm going to get UConn to increase my deal, or let's just throw it out there, 8-9 million, if not 10 million a year. I'll make incentives. I'm not going to mess with Happy. I'll go try to be John Wooden in college. Because that's what he thought about with college. He has a picture of John Wooden in his office. He wants to be college basketball's modern John Wooden. You could say that's crazy, but that's how this guy's wired.
John Fanta here with us. So let me ask you this, John. When you just go through, and I read your article, it was a great article, and you talked about how UConn made him an offer that would make him one of the highest paid coaches in college basketball. I could ask, why didn't he sign that? And you could easily say, okay, because this Lakers possibility is out there and this is legit, as we've seen. But is there something more to that? Like, is he happy with the money that they offered him? Is there a problem with the administration? Is there anything out there why he has not signed it other than, hey, this Lakers job ended up becoming available?
So this is the $1 million question. And I'm going to start my answer by saying we really don't know the exact answer to the question.
Okay.
Because I have asked people around the situation, around the Hurley contract situation, people very close to it, some off-the-record questions. And, Zach, even their answers to me have been a bit blurry. To me, this is what my interpretation of the situation is. This is my interpretation. Hurley receives a contract offer from Connecticut after the season ends, shortly after their second straight national championship season ends. That offer is very lucrative, making Hurley one of the three or four was what I was told, highest paid coaches in college basketball. Now, there are people out there who instantly say, and I'm sure there's commenters right now who are saying, give him all the money in the world, make him number one. Zach, here is what UConn is battling. And there's two sides of this. One, they are a state school. The football program is drowning, right? They're in a very difficult spot. They don't have a conference. This is not Alabama football or Kentucky basketball.
Sure.
They're millions of dollars in debt already. This contract would add to the debt. You and I both know this. I know the casual sports fan would scoff at this, but when you have a state university, state employees in the state government, and you put out the details of this contract because it's freedom of information, this isn't some private school, that's going to make political things happen. That's going to cause some people to scoff and say, nobody's worth what they are putting on the table for him. That one, some of the politics at play, I think, have caused things to not get done with this deal, not get formalized. But based on what I know about what Hurley was offered, really no reason for him not to agree to it, to be candidly honest with you. So to me, him not agreeing to it inclines that maybe there's always been some light dialogue. And I think a key part of this, based on people that I talk with in the industry, is that at a certain point, a Lakers player or two or three, not named LeBron James, said, I like JJ Redick, but I don't know if I love this smartest guy in the room. I'm going to talk down. I'm going to talk at you. I know it all type thing. When I played against him and I get it, but I don't. I think that then caused Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss to reopen the door. And all of a sudden, when they started to ask again about Hurley, what was, he's mildly interested, became he's interested and he wants to talk.
And Woj is a big part of that. And I just wonder, I'm sure the Lakers reached out to Woj, said, is he interested? Or maybe some of the Lakers said, hey, you may want to check in with Danny Hurley because we've been talking to him because they wanted this story out there for whatever the reasons were. I think there's some level of truth, I would imagine, to that. And Woj is a big piece in that.
He is the piece in it. And I want to make this clear. I respect the heck out of Adrian Wojnarowski. He is the standard newsbreaker in sports. That's not a political statement by me. It's not to puff him up. Woj is the best at what he does. But I do quite literally think that the Lakers talk with Woj about any other candidates. Woj has a personal relationship with Dan Hurley, with his father, Bob Sr., and his brother, Bobby. Woj floated it to Dan and his people and got back, yeah, he's interested. So this is happening in real time right now. The money, the brand, all of that is real. One thing I would push back on, two things I would push back on, Zach. Okay. Number one, some of the reporting out there, this tells me that Woj is talking directly to Dan. If you've heard some of the reporting is that, UConn doesn't play in the Big Ten or SEC or Big 12. They're dealing with Big East, and the Big East doesn't have football dollars, and this revenue sharing and lack of football TV money, which very ironically, Zach, the Big East is squarely in TV renewal negotiations as we are talking, as this is also happening. And we both know UConn's brand matters in those negotiations. But this whole notion that there's not enough money, Connecticut's making more than enough money to happen for UConn to continue to be at the mountaintop. UConn's different than Villanova, Georgetown, St. John, Seton Hall, Providence. They're a state school that has big-time money that will commit to basketball. They just gave Gino Auriemma a max deal at his age, a huge deal. Let's face it, that was a massive deal. The other thing is this, this notion that Hurley would be leaving UConn, would be leaving the college game because of the volatility of college basketball, with all due respect, is a bunch of bull. There's nothing volatile in Storrs, Connecticut. College basketball is going through a chaotic time.
You don't think NIL and transfer portal plays a role in this?
I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't. I really don't. This is the Lakers. If the Cavaliers have an opening, if the Cavs called Dan Hurley, he would hang up the phone.
You're probably right.
So my point is, like, if that were the case, if your argument was the case, then he'd be going to the NBA regardless. And he's not. I think he would take 3 NBA coaching jobs: the Lakers, the Celtics, or the Knicks.
Yeah, you're probably right on that. Like, I do think it's easier now, lifestyle, to be a pro coach than it is college. But, if the Cavs came calling, I don't think he's leaving. So last thing I'll ask you, as we're wrapping up with John Fanta. I'm at an 85% confidence that Hurley is taking this job. What number are you at right now that he's the next Lakers coach?
75%. The remaining 25, because of what I know with what UConn situationally can put together, if he's a little bit uncomfortable with LA. His dad is in Jersey City. His parents have lived in the same Jersey City home forever. Pops might have Bobby in Arizona State, but if you ask the family, Bob Sr.'s seeing Dan at UConn a heck of a lot more than he's going out to Tempe to see Bobby. Let's face it. Do they have enough money to move the family and do all that? Of course. Of course. But, you've got a son on Wall Street. Dan Jr. is a Seton Hall grad, works on Wall Street, works in New York City. You've got another son in Andrew who could follow you to the Lakers. This family's been attached to the Northeast for 5 decades, 6 decades. We're talking about, a half century. The Hurleys have been attached to this part of the country where I'm talking to you now. That 25% just says, there's so many variables that plays with the Lakers that there could be more cons to Hurley's life and to his wife's life. That his wife says, Dan, we're going back to Connecticut. You're going for a 3-peat. And we're not messing with Happy because of how much it took us to get there.
If he does leave, Kamani Young is the next coach. That would be my first guess.
That is my take. As somebody told me that's around Storrs, that has some clout there in some of the decision making. All it takes is one. All it takes is one name to be interested on the outside for them to reconsider. But if you're not going to elevate somebody in the family now who's deserving, when are you ever going to do it? Number one. And two, all these other coaches have fielded their rosters. Like, people don't understand this. These players on these other teams, Alabama, Texas, Duke, Kentucky, Arkansas, they're on their campuses. They're going to class. They've enrolled. They're in practice. The 2024-25 season has started for these teams. We're not thinking about it. But all these teams, they're starting their road to March now. All these rosters have been built. The NIL cash is going to get distributed. So if you go and hire an outsider, who's available even to field a roster? And you don't want to lose. UConn is a top 10 roster on paper in college basketball right now. Do you want to lose pieces of that? But the other thing is, if those kids were to enter the transfer portal, Zach, which if Hurley leaves, they have 30 days to do so, where are they going? Right now in college basketball, once a kid commits, there are other kids on the team that see him commit, and they've been going elsewhere the last 2 months. They don't want to compete for a role. They want their cash. They want to know what their role is on the team. You got to keep that aligned if you're UConn. You built your roster. I only wonder what Alex Caravan's thinking right now because Hurley got him to come back. You elevate Kamani Young. That's what I think that they will do. Or Luke Murray if Kamani does not want it for some reason.
He is John Fanta. John, good luck on the move and good luck on the search with Dan Hurley, because I know this is going to be a wild next few days. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Zach. Appreciate you.
There he is, John Fanta. Let's get the update and we'll react to that on the other side. Here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, Chiefs defensive lineman B.J. Thompson is awake and alert just a day after suffering a seizure and going into cardiac arrest, and his prognosis is good, according to his agent. The Yankees have the best record in baseball, the longest current winning streak at 8 in a row, and seemingly dodged a bullet today. Results of an MRI on Juan Soto's forearm reportedly show only inflammation. The 25-year-old is currently hitting .318 with 17 homers and 53 RBIs. The Yanks put that winning streak to test tonight against the L.A. Dodgers. Manager Aaron Boone said his team's good start has come in part because no detail is too small.
Starting pitching and how good it's been, but it's been those small things that aren't small, running the bases, playing defense in big spots. That's what's been great.
The Reds have climbed out of the NL Central cellar and will host the Cubs, who are right above them in the standings by a game. Chris Sale is proving he has something left after some injury-filled seasons in Boston. He's 8-1 and will take the mound for the Braves tonight when they face the Nationals in Washington. Carlos Alcaraz into the French Open final for the first time, holding off Yannick Sinner in 5 sets. He'll take on Alexander Zverev, who is a 4-set winner over Casper Ruud. I'm Rich Ackerman.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Continues on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Infinity Sports Network with Wendy's $3 English muffin deal. You don't just get breakfast, you get a proper meal. Get your choice of a sausage or bacon, egg, and cheese English muffin sandwich with small seasoned potatoes. Grab yours today. Terms apply. And the NASCAR Cup Series heads west to Sonoma Raceway in California for the Toyota Save Mart 350. Martin Truex Jr. sits fifth in the Cup Series, but is the favorite to win with 5-1 odds as Denny Hamlin tries to maintain his lead atop the standings. So, good stuff with John Fanta. That was a crazy final last 40 minutes. From the Uber, his phone dying, to then him joining us as they're trying to move into a house, his wife interrupting the interview in the background. And then, oh yeah, by the way, all the Dan Hurley information. So Dan Hurley is in LA today. And as we speak, I believe he's meeting with Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka. And I do think we're going to get a decision by at the latest Monday. I think by Monday, the latest, we will know. You meet today, you know what their offer is, you know what UConn's offering, whether you agree to it there and you take the job on the spot, or you fly back right to your headquarters and you want to talk to family, or you stay in LA and you jump on Zoom or a phone call and you talk to family and whatnot. But I even said, I think it's at an 85% chance now. John said 75%. And John's as plugged into college basketball as anybody, with working for the Big East and working for Fox. And I really do believe John Fanta's like the future voice of college basketball. So he's as plugged in as anybody. And I don't think John would say that without feeling like that's the way that he legitimately did think this was going to go about. So the only reason why he wouldn't take it is what John alluded to. It's a family component, where most of your family is in the Northeast. And for most of your life, you've been on the East Coast. And you'd be going all the way to the West Coast. But if John's right on that, that's a $100 million offer. Like, I felt good thinking yesterday it was 6 years, $80 million. If this is more than that, I don't get it. You don't take it. You know, I understand the family component of this. I understand you're comfortable right now and you're king. But if you have a dream, which Dan Hurley has admitted he does, if you have a dream of one day coaching in the NBA, why wait 4 or 5 years when the Los Angeles Lakers are calling? And to John's point, I think he brings up a good point. The Cavs are calling, and John's a Cleveland guy. That's not, hey, we're going to go poo-poo on the Cleveland Browns. I mean, the Cleveland Cavaliers. John Fant is a Cleveland guy. But if this was the Cavs, if this was the Thunder, who have an incredibly good young roster, if this was the Memphis Grizzlies, I don't think he's taking the job. But John's probably right. Lakers, Celtics, Knicks, the 3 jobs that he would take in the NBA. And one of them is offering you supposedly a lucrative contract, a ridiculous contract. And I still ask the question, and this is where I got to why I felt like he was taking the job and why I ultimately be the coach of the Lakers. They offered him that deal a while ago, UConn. It is a fair offer. It is a good offer. Right? John basically just told us the numbers or alluded to the numbers in the last segment. So he hasn't signed that deal yet. Why? Well, it wasn't because he was going to Kentucky. What else is it? And then boom, this Lakers story comes out. Makes me think he's going to take the gig. Makes me think he's going to be the next coach of the Lakers. And I hope we find out about this by tomorrow. I don't want to sit here through the rest of today. I don't want to sit here through all tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday. I would like to find this answer out by tomorrow. Meet with the Lakers today. You decide in the next 24 hours, and tomorrow by this time, let's get the announcement. And let's see, are you going to stay or are you going to go? And I think he is going to go. And I think he'll be the next coach of the Lakers. All righty, we'll take a break. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. When we come on back, we'll get to a little onside offside since it is a Friday edition of the extravaganza. Santa's got some questions for me. I'll give you some answers. We'll also get back into the NBA Finals since we basically just devoted the last hour all to Dan Hurley. Brad Stevens is a wizard. We'll talk about that. Kyrie Irving ended up being a fraud last night, and what he was trying to tell us was obviously all a bunch of just phony information and lies. We'll get into all that Game 1 reaction when we come on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
And away we go, hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. So, 2 more things off of last night in the NBA Finals in Game 1. You want to give some credit to Brad Stevens. And I know some people will say, all right, how much credit does Brad Stevens need? Because he did leave Butler, right, eventually. We know what he did at Butler. Getting him to 2 national championship games was remarkable. John Shire, that celebration that he had, and now John Shire's the coach of Duke. But right when Butler had that half-court heave that almost went in to win them a national championship game, and then you see the elation of John Shire. He's jumping up and down right in front of Jim Nantz and Bill Raftery when they were on the call for that. And we've seen coaches go from college to the NBA, and most of them fail. I wouldn't say Brad Stevens failed. Brad Stevens was a good coach in the NBA, but he reached his limit of what he was going to be able to do with this group. And there started to become, through time, a disconnect. And eventually, he moves up to the front office, and they hire Ime Udoka. We know, or we think we know what happened with Ime Udoka. And the next thing you know, Joe Mazzulla is the next coach. But Brad Stevens, the executive, I thought when he went into that role, a lot of us believed that Brad Stevens would eventually go coach in the NBA somewhere else or go back to college to coach. And that's not been the case. And I want to give Brad Stevens a credit to this. Because when you have a group that he knows very well, that has been so close but yet so far, it's very tough to break up that core. Like my hockey team, the Rangers, are going through this right now. You've had Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, and Chris Kreider together. They've been close, but they've been still not able to hoist that Stanley Cup, which is the toughest trophy to win in sports. So there's a conversation and a dialogue now. Do you trade one of those guys to bring someone else in and maybe have that move elevate them and propel them to win a Stanley Cup? The Celtics were in a similar situation. And there were a lot of people this past offseason that were furious when the Boston Celtics elected to trade Marcus Smart. But that deal ended up changing the Celtics and bringing them now 3 wins away from an NBA championship. Because in that deal where they traded Marcus Smart, and it was a 3-way deal, the Wizards, the Grizzlies, and the Celtics back in that deal got Kristaps Porzingis, and here's the part that's not talked about enough. They got 2 first-round draft picks, a 2025 or a 2023 25th overall pick from the Grizzlies, and then they got a 2024 first-rounder. That 2024 first-rounder was used in the Drew Holiday trade. So think about it. They turned the Marcus Smart deal, that's how it was referred to, into getting Kristaps and then using one of those picks to go get Drew Holiday. That's a great move by Brad Stevens. And I've not heard it talked about enough nationally. And that move's going to be a mega reason why the Celtics go on to win 3 more games and become NBA champions. Because last night tells me everything I need to know about the Mavs. Yes, they have a great dynamic duo. They have a better dynamic duo than Tatum and Brown with Luka and Kyrie. But they need those 2 guys, Luka and Kyrie, in 4 games because they need 4 victories to win a championship. They need them both to go for over 30 points. And I don't think you're getting both those guys to go over 30 points 4 times together. And last night you saw Luka step up late, right, when they made that run in the third quarter. Then Mazzulla called timeout and the Celtics set the game back. But Kyrie Irving was terrible last night. He was dreadful. Didn't make a 3-point shot. Was 6 of 19 from the field. Before the series told us, hey, he's matured. He's learned how to, consolidate his emotions. And then after the game, he's like, oh, I thought the Boston crowd could have been louder. And then you hear from Mike Gorman, the voice of the Celtics, that he was at the game and because it's now national TV broadcast, he just retired anyway. And he said in like the 8th, 9th row, and there was a fan in front of him in the 4th row, and Kyrie and that fan were going at it during the game for a 3-4 minute stretch. So Kyrie tried to present this image that he's more mature, he's changed, and the Celtic fan still gets under his skin. And it was all baloney what we heard for this past week, and everyone praising Kyrie. And I'll raise my hand, I'll admit I praise Kyrie too. I thought he changed. I didn't think it was going to last long term. I didn't think, though, after game 1 of the finals, I'd be on my radio show nationally saying, man, I'm out on Kyrie. But Kyrie will go off like 2 times, 3 times maybe in this series. But he's not going to be holding that championship trophy. He's not going to be able to beat this Celtics team 4 times. And he's gone up against better teams, right? Right? We know what he did with LeBron, coming back down 3-1 against the Warriors and that iconic shot that he hit and also his Game 6 performance that he had. But that Boston crowd and his history with Boston, where he was in the wrong for, gets under his skin. And even if he's telling you every little thing's going to be all right, it's not. So those are my takeaways from last night. Porzingis was sensational. He won them game 1. Jaylen Brown did a great job when he needed to. They won that game where Tatum wasn't even great. And that's not a good recipe for the Mavs. And now, you know what I love the most actually after last night? It was after the game. I saw a video of Jaylen Brown in the locker room. And Jaylen Brown's a leader of this team. Jaylen Brown walking past his teammates and saying, guys, don't get comfortable. That's just one. And we've seen Boston before in the playoffs. First round, second round, win the first game, drop the second game to Miami and Cleveland. Can they lose game 2? Sure, they could lose game 2. Do I expect them to lose game 2? No. Because as much as Kyrie told you how much he matured, the Boston Celtics this year have matured. And getting Porzingis back last night was enormous. Having the leadership of Drew Holiday is enormous. I know I've criticized Jaylen Brown before in some of these playoff performances, but his leadership is invaluable. And Tatum, that shows you the sign of the Celtics' greatness. Tatum didn't even play a great game, and they were still able to blow out the team that's representing the Western Conference in the NBA Finals. All righty, let's get to a little onside, offside. Carlos Ortiz. And we're going to keep on calling him CK. If you've been listening to the show this week, you know why. Let's get to a little onside, offside. Hit it.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
All righty, Moist Mike. What do we got cooking today?
All right, well, let's start with the new kickoff rule in the NFL. Now, after the Chiefs said they might use Justin Reed.
You have a late night last night?
What's up?
You have a late night last night?
I had a something night last night.
You went out on the town?
On the new town. Not yet. Not quite yet.
You just lost your voice?
Yeah, just a lot of screaming at the baby, I guess.
What do you mean screaming at the baby? Do I have to call Child Protective Services?
Yes.
Wait, what happened?
No, it's just a rough night.
Oh, so you were up late?
It was just a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, lost my voice. So
screaming at the bed, I don't know. It sounds kind of morbid. How could you scream at your beautiful a year and a half old daughter?
How about that? Screaming with the baby.
Oh, screaming with. Oh,
Yeah.
so you were having fun.
Yeah.
Okay. You made that seem like it was like a crazy ugly night in the Sampson household.
It was a wild night. Let's say
Gotcha.
that. Now, after the Chiefs said they would use Justin Reed to kick off to protect Harrison Butker with the new kickoff rules, Ravens star Justin Tucker says he plans to bulk up a little bit.
More recently, my lab has actually been the weight room. This might be really surprising to a lot of you guys and a lot of my teammates because I don't spend to hang out in the weight room too frequently. But after watching a lot of these XFL plays over the last couple years, kicker seems to be like involved in like 20-25% of the tackles. So I've mixed it up a couple of times. I've gotten in there, but now I gotta get some more shrugs, get the traps going a little bit, just to make sure I'm prepared for a little bit more contact.
You remember when Desmond Howard was screaming on the ESPN Big Penix energy? I would be screaming that's fake tough guy energy from Justin Tucker. That's what that kind of sounded like. But continue your question, Samter.
Now, Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel said he expects teams will use stars and starters to return kicks.
I think it opens up your roster. Maybe guys that traditionally have been starters on defense or starters on offense. I think it gives you more flexibility to put starters on that unit for various reasons. It wouldn't shock me if, every number one receiver and every number one running back in the league is raising their hand to return kicks week 4.
Onside, offside, it would be irresponsible for teams to let their number one wideout or running back return kicks.
Justin Jefferson just got a deal that puts him, I think, at $35 million a year. Unless it's a moment of desperation, I'm not putting Justin Jefferson back for kickoffs. So, yeah, it would be irresponsible to let your number one wideout or running back return kicks. I'm going onside.
Now, Anthony Edwards had a breakout year for the T-Wolves before their ugly loss to the Mavs. Now, Edwards will join Team USA for the Summer Olympics in Paris, and Kevin Garnett has a warning for the T-Wolves.
To Minnesota's ownership, make sure in these Olympics that these Olympic coaches do not play Anthony Edwards. You hear what I'm saying to you? Because there'll be a lot of those little games that people don't really talk about, bro. You get in the Olympics, we're supposed to be this 12-man roster of superstars, but yeah, I'm playing the bulk of the minutes. 40 minutes, I'm playing 36 minutes. Flip had to call and be like, hey, look, I get it. But yeah, we got a season 2 and, like real talk. Nobody's talking about that. You feel me? That perspective is a real one.
Now, onside, offside, playing in the Summer Olympics will have negative effects during the season on the players who participate.
I don't think he's wrong because it's extra wear and tear on the body, but here's what I'll say. The NBA regular season is such a joke to begin with anyway. If a player gets, a lot more burn in the summer because of the Olympics, just give him a few games off. It fits in with everybody else in the NBA. So Playing in the Summer Olympics will have a negative effect during the season on players who participate. I don't really care about the regular season anyway, so I'm going to say no. Offsides.
Offside.
There are a lot of changes around college sports, and one change in football has some fans upset. The NCAA approved for teams to have advertisements on the field, one at midfield and two smaller ads somewhere else closer to the end zones on the field. Now, onside, offside, you are okay with ads being on fields, courts, or the ice?
I'm going to go on sides. I really don't care. I'm kind of numb to it at this point. I know when the NBA team started to put ads in the jersey, you had people like Peter Schwartz start freaking out. He's like, how can you do that? Because of how special the jersey is. I'm just used to it. Maybe it's a generational thing. It doesn't bug me.
Okay. Nice and quick. Now, after the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson bout was postponed due to Tyson's health scare the other day, the fight has been rescheduled for November. Now, over in the UFC, we still don't have official answers about the status of McGregor and Chandler after that press conference was canceled, but there does appear to be some optimism that the fight will actually still happen. Onside, offside. We will eventually see both of these fights happen.
Offside. The Chandler-McGregor one, yeah, I guess. Like, I know I said earlier in the week I didn't think it was going to happen. I'll still believe it when I see it, but I think that has a better chance of happening. I don't want to see this Tyson-Jake Paul thing anymore. After seeing that video of Mike Tyson, that fight should not happen. So I'm going to hope that it doesn't happen. So we'll eventually see both these fights happen. I will go offside. By the way, I have an offside question for you, Samter. Should I be offended with our own company? Our own company puts out this weekly write-up of everything that goes on and all the stations that they own and obviously our network. And for Infinity Sports Network, they said, hot take alert. Zach Gelb is skeptical that Conor McGregor will fight at UFC 303 at the end of the month in Vegas and thinks this McGregor-Chandler fight is starting to feel a lot like Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Our own company saying it's a hot take alert. Should I be offended by that? I didn't think it was a hot take.
No, I think they're just trying to make it sound interesting. More interesting.
I thought the take was already interesting.
I'm sure hot take alert is something that probably happens on every one of their emails.
It was
probably a hot take
bold,
alert.
though. They put hot take in bold.
No, it's not. Hot take isn't necessarily a negative connotation. It's just an interesting take that makes people think.
All right, give me one more of these questions.
All right, well, more fallout from the Chicago Sky versus Caitlin Clark drama. Yesterday, multiple members of the Sky, including Angel Reese, took to social media to complain about a fan who, quote-unquote, harassed Kennedy Carter at the team hotel for his hip check on Clark.
Yeah, put harassment in air quotes.
Well, especially after we get more information. Now, apparently, the harassment prompted team security to step in to, quote-unquote, protect Carter. And obviously, players on the team were very unhappy. Well, video of the incident was released, and it appears it was just a single guy repeatedly asking Carter
like a
from
TMZ
a distance,
reporter.
Yeah, from a distance, if she, quote, had a chance to reach out to Caitlin yet. Though some players say there's more that happened than the video actually shows. So we don't know what happened before or afterwards. Apparently he used some racial words or kind of went at them for, women's sports as well. But we didn't see any of that on the video. And until we do, it's just their word against what we see. Now, onside, offside, all the negative press about Carter, Reese, and the Sky, especially after this Caitlin Clark incident, is actually good for the WNBA.
Yeah, because we're talking about it. But here's what I'll say. Assuming racial things or negative comments weren't made and just what happened on the video where the reporter was just, or fan, I don't know what it was just asking questions. Like, that's what happens to big-time stars. And you want to be a big-time star. You want the WNBA to be a big-time thing. When an incident like that happens, someone's going to have a camera when you're walking off a bus to the hotel, and they're going to say some things to you. Obviously, if it's racial or if it's anything that's offensive, that shouldn't happen. That's not okay. But just judging by the video, it didn't look like that's the case. But all the negative press about Carter and Reese, and this guy's actually a good thing for the WNBA? Yeah, because we're talking about the WNBA, where in other years we wouldn't be talking about it. So there you go. That's Onside Offside. It is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll come on back, talk more NBA Finals.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Infinity Sports Network, and it is the Zach Gelb Show. Let's go out to Boston. Celtics are up 1-0 in the NBA Finals after taking care of the Dallas Mavericks last night, dominating that game. Gary Washburn has covered the Celtics and the NBA for a long time for the Boston Globe, but he's kind enough to join us right now. Gary, always good to hear your voice. Thanks so much for doing this, and how you been?
Oh, very good. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. Kristaps Porzingis, that to me was the story of the game last night. His start was just absolutely incredible, both defensively with the blocks and then what he was able to do on the offensive end. We were all wondering if there was going to be rust. Hey, 21 minutes on the court, he gets 20 points, and the Celtics get a win. Just how about the performance of Porzingis last night?
Yeah, it was a real surprise because we had honestly no idea what condition he was in. I mean, he had practiced with the team during a light practice this week. Had gone 5-on-5, had taken some three-pointers, was working out and doing basketball stuff. We had no idea whether he was going to be ready for an NBA Finals game. So the fact of him coming out and scoring 11 points in 7 minutes and getting into that big boost and being such a presence out there was shocking to everybody. And it's obviously a boost the Celtics needed to take advantage and take control of Game 1.
And then also just continuing with the Celtics, I thought afterwards I saw some video of Jaylen Brown in the locker room saying, guys, we got to keep focused. It's only one game for a team that we've seen before, even in this postseason, go up 1-0 and then drop Game 2. I thought that leadership of Jaylen Brown was very big last night after the game, too. That's actually the thing I was most impressed with, actually, from the game was Jaylen Brown after the game saying that.
Yeah, it's important that they focus. They haven't done anything yet. They just won one game. Dallas can still steal home court advantage, by winning Game 2. And remember, Dallas lost the opening game in the Clippers series, came back and won in the situation with Oklahoma City and won. And then they punched Minnesota in the mouth and took a 3-0 lead. So this team is definitely apt to bounce back. So the Celtics are going to have to be prepared for all the adjustments, prepared for a much tougher game, much more intense game, and they're going to need to make adjustments themselves. I would honestly say that the Celtics did not play their A game in Game 1. I would say, having seen them all year, they played about their B- game. They, had a little too many turnovers. They went through kind of a three-point skid, an offensive skid in the third quarter. They weren't all that great. Now, they played well. They played great defensively, but they can be better also, and they're going to have to be better.
What kind of performance going off of that do you expect from Jason Tatum in Game 2?
Well, he played more facilitator. He had 6 turnovers with 5 assists. He had 11 rebounds, 16 points. He missed some shots he probably should have made, but they were also doubling him, getting the ball out of his hands. They're not going to let him just go one-on-one and turn the corner and get to the rim or hit threes. So I expect he'll be more aggressive, but I also think that he'll also play within the elements in the flow of the game and not do too much. He doesn't want to get into a tit-for-tat with Luka or, okay, I could score, you could score. He wants to make the right play, set up his teammates. I think he understands he doesn't need to do everything anymore. And not only do they have Jaylen Brown, but obviously Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis, Jrue Holiday, Al Horford. They got a deep club that can help score. So Jason doesn't need to be that Kobe-like guy.
Talking to Gary Washburn right now, does a great job covering the entire league and the Celtics for the Boston Globe. Let me get your thoughts on Joe Mazzulla. I thought the criticism last year of him was a little unfair for a guy first year on the job, especially with the circumstances. That did happen in Boston. Obviously, when you're 3 wins away from the NBA Finals and you take Game 1, everyone's going to be loving you. But what do you think is the biggest difference from last year to this year with Mazzulla that you've noticed covering the team day in and day out?
Well, I think he's made a natural growth and transition into being the permanent head coach, not the interim head coach, just being more comfortable in his own skin and his own philosophies and getting accustomed to the rigors of the NBA game, being a head coach. I also think he's got a good staff around him with guys like Charles Lee, who will be taking the Charlotte Hornets job when the season ends, and then, veteran Sam Cassell, who's been around a long time and a 3-time champion. And I just think Joe's become more confident, more assertive in his philosophies, and the players believe in him too. He is only 35 years old, so he can't come at the players like most player situations where it's a father-son situation where you're old enough to be their father. He's old enough to be their big brother. And with Al Horford, he's old enough to be his little brother. He's 2 years younger than Al Horford. But he comes across as a brotherly type. You know, he accepts, he definitely respects their opinions, has discussions, and so they view him that way as opposed to a general, natural, or traditional coach-player relationship. And I think that's done wonders for Joe, is how he relates to his players.
Gary Washburn here with us. Bringing up Al Horford, if he wins this championship and the Basketball Hall of Fame is not just what you do in the pros, where he's a 5-time All-Star and then he would be an NBA champion, but you also factor in what he did in college, which was win 2 titles at Florida. Does this championship make Al Horford a Basketball Hall of Famer, in your opinion?
Well, considering who has gotten in recently, if you look at like a guy like Chris Webber, you like a guy like Grant Hill, guys like Bobby Jones, guys who have had nice careers, strong careers, but you wouldn't maybe say was a Hall of Fame. I think Horford's definitely in that conversation because, as you said, they include college accomplishments. So a 2-time national champion is going to be great for his resume. Then a 5-time All-Star, a champion if they happen to win it this year, a guy who, in a lot of ways, he should be applauded because he's kind of set the standard for the more post-heavy forwards. I mean, Al came into the league as a post player, and he extended his career probably by 5 years by learning how to shoot the three. And now you see a lot of bigs over the years who have followed Horford in that path of saying, okay, I can no longer be the rebound and short jump hook guy. I've got to stretch the floor. I've got to learn how to shoot from the perimeter. I've got to blend in with this new NBA that stresses three-pointers. And so I think he's kind of a trailblazer when it comes to that because not a lot of bigs did that. They were already natural. Guys like Paul Gasol and some of the bigs from Europe were naturally perimeter players. Al was just a post player. He was a big in his early years in Atlanta, and now he's turned into a guy who can hit 7 or 8 threes in a game. So I do think this definitely adds to a resume that's likely a Hall of Fame resume.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. You've seen that development with Brook Lopez as well, who I don't think shot a three-pointer until like his last year with the Nets, and then obviously Milwaukee has taken that to a different level. Gary Washburn is here with us. I was watching the game last night, and they go into the locker room at halftime, and they show Jason Kidd just begging his team to basically kind of, loosen up and just have fun. Was the moment just too big in Game 1 for the Mavericks last night when you look back at it?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say they were like shell-shocked, but I would say that they just seemed like once the Celtics punched back, they got discouraged. And once shots didn't go down, heads started to fall, and Luka just didn't have that energy. And Kyrie seemed discouraged because Kyrie's now lost, 11 in a row, his team playing the Celtics. So I think heads kind of slumped a little bit at halftime. And even though, I thought that they made that late second quarter run, it was a 29-point lead, suddenly it was 21, and 21-point leads in the NBA aren't that hard to overcome anymore, that they were still very much in the game, but it just seemed like Kidd sensed that his team was just not quite right and tried to get him motivated.
Yeah, how about Kyrie? Because leading into this NBA Finals, he gave you as close as a mea culpa that Kyrie Irving would give for what happened in Boston a few years ago and the way that he handled that, going back and the interactions with the fans. Then last night after the game, you hear 2 stories, one coming from Kyrie where he thought the fans would be a little bit louder, and then Mike Gorman was on the Sports Hub today, and he was saying that I guess a fan and Kyrie were jawing back and forth for a few minutes during the game. Where are you at with Kyrie, and he'll continue to handle the Boston crowd?
Well, I thought the crowd was very much enthusiastic into it and loud. I think they were more pro-Celtics and supportive of what the Celtics are doing as opposed to like, okay, we're really going to give Kyrie a hard time here. Like, I think they were, they booed him, and they obviously don't like when he makes a shot. They cheer when he misses or he gets blocked. When he makes a bad play or a turnover, they love that. But I don't think they were as much into like, okay, we're here to give Kyrie just a hard time. We're here to just berate him. I think they were more into what the Celtics were doing, and so they might have been a little quieter in terms of like their vitriol toward Kyrie than they have in the past. But I also think they were more into like, we got to get this game. Our team needs to play well. we want to cheer them on, as opposed to like, let's make Kyrie's night hard.
So you have the angle of the local coverage with Boston for the Boston Globe, and then obviously you cover the entire league. Like from afar nationally, since Brad Stevens has moved into the president of basketball operations role, for us, he's kind of been out of sight, out of mind. We know what he did as a coach there. He didn't win a championship, but he was still good. But those two deals that he made, getting rid of Marcus Smart, bringing in Porzingis, and then using that first-round pick as part of that deal to go get Drew Holiday, if they go win 3 more games, what do you think the conversation's going to be in the way that people start to talk about Brad Stevens in this chapter?
Yeah, he's done a great job as general manager. He's rebuilt the roster. He signed acquired Derek White, brought back Al Horford, was able to dump that Kemba Walker contract. And, the unfortunate part about that was I think Walker was a great fit in Boston, but his knees just kind of gave out, so they had to kind of move on from that deal. He's rebuilt the roster. Obviously, as a coach, I think he was good, but I think his time kind of ran out. I think he thought his voice was kind of losing its impact in the last couple of years in Boston. And I think the fact that he's been able to rebuild the roster, trading some first-round picks, getting in some veterans, signing some guys, developmental players who really helped and have helped, has been just a great thing, obviously, with the franchise. And they've definitely, taken a step forward. But now the only thing stopping this, I guess, from being a great story is winning a championship, and that's what they're going after now.
Last thing for Gary Washburn, just because Boston last night was the epicenter of the basketball universe. Clearly, the Lakers found their way into the conversation with this Danny Hurley story. I kind of think Hurley's going to take the job just being in Boston last night and that being a part of the NBA Finals coverage. What are your thoughts on the Danny Hurley situation as he's meeting with the Lakers right now and has that decision to make?
Yeah, I do think it's tempting for him. I mean, he's won back-to-back championships, and so the question is, well, what more can he do at UConn? I mean, could he try to go for 3 in a row and be a super dynasty? He could do that. How much does he love the college game? How much does he love what's going on in the transfer portal and NIL and all these things that have kind of chased coaches like Jay Wright and Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams kind of away into retirement? And when you deal with the NBA, you deal with professionals, you deal with highly paid players, but all it's about is basketball. You sign free agents, you coach, you're not recruiting, you're not out there, texting 16-year-olds about, when you're going to come visit us. None of that's a part of it. So I think that's intriguing for him. Obviously, the paycheck, living in L.A., although he doesn't really strike me as an L.A. guy, yeah. But I think that will work out. And I think that he had a chance to probably help build the roster and build a championship caliber club is sure as tempting to him, in addition to obviously the salary.
He is Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe. Gary, appreciate the time as always. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
There he is, Gary Washburn, joining us from the Boston Globe, covers the Celtics and the NBA. I'm a little bit surprised today with Ack. I'm really surprised by you.
Why?
Well, because I think you are the locker room leader kind of here.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, right, you're the veteran. Everyone has respect for you.
Okay.
And I think you keep a lot of people in check.
Okay.
And I do remember about 3 weeks ago where Samter wore shorts and he wore sandals.
Yes.
Yeah, right? And you made a little bit of I don't want to say an issue, but you being the locker room leader.
I made a comment, yes.
You made a comment at him. And
that was a little egregious.
And I understand I'm not the Don of fashion here.
Yes.
Right? I don't care how I dress when I walk into work. But I was very surprised today because you usually have very nice shirts on, very nice polos, things like that. That you're in like a zip-up as my computer cover just falls off.
Well,
a T-shirt and shorts.
Cold. Well, it's a little cold in the office, but it's 85 degrees outside. But I think I've told many people, like, before Memorial Day, I wouldn't go shorts.
Okay.
After Memorial Day, okay.
So you're not an anti-short guy. It's just after Memorial Day.
Yeah, I thought it was a little early and, pushing the envelope a little. That's all.
It was 100 degrees out, but before Memorial Day, you won't wear shorts?
That's the exception. I mean, if it's really, really hot, yes. But I thought, people taking some liberties, and I thought, hey, it's okay to wear shorts, but let's kind of
flip-flops. I would say you shouldn't wear flip-flops into
I'm not a flip-flop guy, but okay, if you're going to go shorts, you might as well go flip-flops, right? I wouldn't do it, but more power to you if you want to do it.
And if you're not watching us on YouTube, the way I would describe ACT today is if Jim Boeheim was still coaching at Syracuse, you could be his lead assistant.
This is vintage.
Oh, okay. What is it?
This is from the White Shadow.
Oh.
Carver High School.
Okay. How about that?
Yeah.
Like Mike Carver? Who used to work? I'm
so, although he had a Twitter handle, Carver High.
Yeah.
So, yes. But, this is...
But you go to shoot-around right now and be the assistant coach on Boeheim's staff.
It's also Friday.
Yeah, dress down Friday.
Nobody's in the
here.
office. Yeah, so I took a liberty or two.
No, it's fine. You're entitled to do that. As a veteran and as a star player, you get treated to a different standard. You're allowed to do that.
I just thought, I told people, things were a little agreed. Like, if it's over 80 before Memorial Day, okay. But it was, it was a nice 75.
Yeah, and to be fair, when Samter wore shorts and a T-shirt and sandals, I don't think
it was
55.
That hot.
Yeah, it was not that hot. The weather was not that crazy.
Busting his chops there.
It was pretty nice. I think it was.
It was nice.
It was mid to high 70s, if not low 80s.
We had some nice weather. We had a stretch of nice weather where a lot of people wore shorts, and I was okay with it. But I was like, we could wait. It's not that hot. But the other thing is, like, people kind of dressed for what they thought it would be. Mm-hmm. So like if you're coming in like Hickey comes in at nighttime. And by that point,
off hours a little bit different.
No, but like I'm just saying, he's in the throes of whatever that high temperature is. Mm-hmm. Guys came in the morning when it's 60 wearing shorts. Because it was going to be warmer later. I'm like, you don't need that right now. You can hold off. There's some decorum there.
By the way, you think Samter been hanging around Jody Mack and Steve Summers?
Why, is he smoking?
Bit? It sounds like he smoked 12 cigarettes last night with the way that his voice sounds.
I don't know. How you feeling there?
You all right?
Yeah, I just lost my voice.
That's not good.
Just lost his voice.
That's not good.
Guy was off 3 weeks, and then the voice.
When did that happen? No, you were fine like 20 minutes ago.
I know. It literally just happened right before onside, offside. I was fine. I was talking, and the next thing you knew, done.
I can't confirm nor deny this, but I think Carlos may have said something to Samter, and Samter then yelled at Carlos, and the two of them had a little fight, and I guess Samter was screaming so loud that he lost his voice.
That could happen.
I would never yell.
See, now it's coming back a little. Now it sounds a lot better.
Yeah. So we'll take a break. We have one more segment to go on this Friday. When we return, are we about to see Ohtani and McDavid win it all, Connor McDavid, in the same year? Oilers in the Stanley Cup final. Obviously, expectations for the Dodgers to win it all. We'll talk about that on the other side. Update time, though. Here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, there was encouraging news today regarding Chiefs defensive lineman B.J. Thompson. He is awake and alert after suffering a seizure and cardiac arrest yesterday. His prognosis is good, according to his agent. The Braves have had a slow start amid high expectations. They're 7.5 games back in the NL East entering tonight's action. They'll take on the Nationals in Washington. Atlanta took the opener, getting homers from Marcelo Zuna and Adam Duvall. The latter said the offense can turn it on at any moment.
We're always one swing away from a big inning, a walk and then a blast, or a base hit and a blast, or, we've got guys that can drive the baseball. So we always feel like, at any moment we can kind of strike.
Chris Sale has been a bright spot for the Braves so far. At 8-1, he'll start against Jake Irvin. The Yankees are getting some good news today with MRI results on Juan Soto's forearm showing just inflammation. He's off to a terrific start with a .318 average, 17 homers, 53 RBIs. He is not in the starting lineup tonight for the Yankees when they take on the Dodgers, looking for their 9th straight win. Carlos Alcaraz gets into the French Open final for the first time with a 5-set win over Yannick Sinner, and Alexander Zverev also will join him there after defeating Carlos Casper Ruud in 4 sets. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, sports fans, it's JR from the JR Sport Brief. Check us out 24/7 on your smart speaker. Just say, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Rock your body, yeah. Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God.
So there's been a big debate, and I think we added to it today. How much is the transfer portal and NIL making Dan Hurley leave UConn and go to the Los Angeles Lakers if he, in fact, does that? Now, I think that's the case. I think it takes a special job. It's not like he's just going to run for any job, and the Lakers are the special job. But we had John Fanta on. He thinks the narrative that Hurley is leaving to take the Lakers job because of NIL and the transfer portal is ridiculous. Linnell Winningham, who does weekends and fills it a bunch throughout the week, right here on the Infinity Sports Network, it is based out of D.C. We put the Larry Brown quote out that Larry said in this show that if it wasn't even for the transfer portal and NIL, he doesn't think that Dan Hurley would even consider taking the Lakers job. And Linnell Willingham said this narrative that NIL and the portal are going to cause coaches to leave college is crazy. So I find it interesting how divisive saying that ends up being, where some people think it is the reason and others think, no, you're absolutely crazy for saying that is the reason. I could share these two things, though. And Samter did a great job during the break, in between his smoke break, when he sent me a Slack. And one is what Danny Hurley tweeted out right after the national championship victory. It was him on the floor looking like he was crying. And he said, day one of having to deal with the portal. And do we have this Danny Hurley sound when he was talking about his motivation to be back-to-back champions was because of one reason?
My biggest motivation really for the last 2-3 weeks is I just don't want to deal with the portal. And I mean, well, that's why we're trying to win so hard right now, is I'm seeing what other people are doing. It's chaos, and I can hide behind, hey, my season's still going on.
So I think we all know how Danny Hurley feels about the portal. But Samter, it's easier for him to make those jokes when you were already winning one championship and on your way to winning back-to-back national championships.
But to make that joke in the, I mean, that quote was at the Final Four.
Yeah, no, I remember.
That's him talking. And, you know, people talk about motivations. Yes, he's making a joke, but you could tell legitimately in his voice. Mm-hmm. I mean, he cursed. How often do you hear Danny Hurley curse at press conferences? So, like, we have to bleep it. Clearly, he doesn't like the portal enough that he has to tweet a picture of him crying on the floor, and he has to talk about it at the Final Four. Your motivation is to avoid the portal? This is clearly an issue for him, and maybe going to the Lakers, going to the NBA is an escape. Good for him.
By the way, we all should have paid $333 each a year ago. I just saw a tweet from Ben. I don't know how to say his last name. I follow him on Twitter.
Skowronek?
Fawkes. How would you say that name?
Oh, Fox.
Fox?
Fox.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, very big in the betting world.
Just be careful how you say it.
That's why I let you do it, because I was about to say something else. So a bettor put $1,000 down on the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, Real Madrid to win the league.
Real
Madrid. No, I did that on purpose. Did they win their league?
They won their league, and they also won the Champions League.
Okay, so that hit. Real Madrid. And then everyone's favorite hockey team, unless if you are the Panthers because of their fan, the Edmonton Oilers to win the Stanley Cup. $1,000 pays out $584,000. Whew.
Dinner's on him.
He did not cash out. So he's now 4 Oilers wins away from $584,000. Now, they have not been able to find the famous Oiler lady. No one has been able to find her. I read in the New York Post today that porn producers are on a mad, crazy search to try to find her. I don't know her relationship status, but if this guy wins his bet, maybe the two of them become a couple. That would be my hot take. Maybe Odyssey should write up about that hot take.
The internet finds everybody. There's no chance that people can't figure out who she is. This is surprising.
Yeah,
this is adding mystery on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Is she even real?
Was it AI? It could have been AI
I don't
generated.
know. I've never seen that at a hockey game. I've been to a lot of hockey games.
I mean, they were fantastic. So, I mean.
Yeah, they were real and spectacular.
Yeah.
What was
Here's the other question. Does she show up at the finals? Does Mystery Lady show up somewhere?
Yeah. What was the movie with the hot chick show up? And was it Dude, Where's My... I don't think that was the movie. What was the movie?
Were they aliens?
Yeah.
That's Dude, Where's My Car?
It is Dude, okay.
We Are Hot Chicks.
Yeah, and
they were looking for the continuum transfunctioner.
And the kid pretends to be blind.
Yes.
And he starts touching the girl.
This is how I read faces.
Maybe that girl's the hot chick. Maybe that's the case. All right, it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Jim in Louisiana says, Zach, over under half a championship for Shohei Ohtani and Connor McDavid this year. You can submit a question by tweeting at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Over under half a championship for Ohtani and McDavid. Carlos.
Over.
Okay. Who gets it, or do both get it?
McDavid gets it.
Okay. Santer?
Definitely over. I think both. I go both.
Ooh.
The Dodgers this year, their Achilles heel has always been choking in the playoffs. Kershaw's not a factor. It's not there. So I don't think it's going to matter. And, yeah.
I'm going to say under. I think the Dodgers find a way to choke, and I think the Panthers are the better team. So that's just the way that I feel about it. Now, I did see that Kershaw's expected to pitch a 2-inning simulated game Friday. That's what I read that was earlier this morning. So I guess that's some point today. But anyway, we will say goodbye to you. We will be back on Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Big thanks to Larry Brown. Big thanks to John Fanta and his wife. And also Gary Washburn for stopping by. Big thanks to Carlos Ortiz, Michael Samter as well, and each and every one of you for listening to the extravaganza. We will chat on Monday. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.
You're in a 5-minute break.